Hello everyone, this is Farid Khan, and in this episode of Unpopular Opinions on Zalmi TV, I am joined by Adam Bell from New Zealand. Hello Adam, how are you doing?
I'm great, thanks.
We just saw an excellent innings from Glenn Phillips. New Zealand were 15 for 3 at one stage in 4 overs against Sri Lanka, and he played one of the innings of his life. How do you describe that innings?
Absolutely incredible, wasn't it? As you point out, New Zealand were in all sorts of trouble at 15 for three. And you saw the Sri Lankan spinners getting a bit of purchase early on. It was a really smart tactic for Sri Lanka to actually open with spin bowlers, especially against Finn Allen. I thought Sanka bowled absolutely superbly. And wasn't that drop catch costly for Sri Lanka? It was a dolly straight down Nisanka's throat, and he dropped it. And then from there, Glenn Phillips obviously got so confident, and some of those shots he were hitting were superb. Some of those like short arm jabs, they weren't even really going that high off the ground, but going into the crowd for six. He's such a powerfully strong guy. It was an incredible innings. I think it's one of the best innings by New Zealand in a T20, especially considering the situation that he was in. Because if he would have got out, I think New Zealand would have been in a lot of trouble, especially with Hasaranga having overs left in the bank.
Now, is there anything he cannot do at the moment? Because he can bat, he can bowl spin as well, he can catch, and he can keep wickets too. And he is the first player in the history of T20 World Cups to score a century batting at number 4 or lower.
Um, as you point out, what can he do? Look, the only thing he hasn't really been doing lately for New Zealand is bowling. He hasn't kept for a few years, but as you saw in that first T20 match against Australia, that was an incredible catch on the boundary, Superman effort. That he's just a really talented cricketer, and he's got a very good background in limited overs cricket and in first class cricket in New Zealand. And I think we'll be seeing a little bit more from him in the international arena. He made his test debut against Australia a few years ago and put up a good innings considering the situation of that match. So I think he's a guy that's going to be in the New Zealand side for many years to come. And I guess with all the leagues in the world at the moment, in looking for international players, there's a couple coming up, obviously, with the Dubai and the South African League. You wonder whether the owners of some of those franchises would be looking at Glenn Phillips and inquiring to see where he's available for those tournaments, because he's a fantastic cricketer with so much power and so much energy, and he's got a big personality. You saw some of the times he was trying to hit some of those slower balls out of the park, and he'd miss them, and he'd be practicing his shot and having a bit of a scream. So he's a ball of energy, and absolutely great character and a fantastic talent from New Zealand.
Now, you would be wondering why I have this calculator in my hand. Firstly, I'm a Pakistan fan, and as you know, we're doing calculations right now to try and find out if there's still a way to get Pakistan into the semi-finals. I know you keep a keen eye on Pakistan as well, on Pakistan cricket. Were you surprised by the first two results? Because this is the first time in T20 World Cup history that Pakistan have lost their first two matches.
I was. I guess the first game was so heartbreaking for Pakistan fans, and I think it was always going to be quite difficult to back that up. The emotions in that game was something else. That was for me, from all the T20 matches I've seen, that for me that was the greatest T20 international ever played. And it was
Absolutely.
just an incredible match, and to get to the stage where it got to, Pakistan fighting back after losing early wickets. We know the incredible innings by Iftikhar to get, and Shah Masood as well, supporting to get Pakistan back into the match, and India coming back, and then Pakistan with that light flurry at the end with Shaheen Shah Afridi, and then we look at the Indian innings, and the Pakistani bowlers bowled so superbly in that game, and had India on the ropes before Hardik Pandya again, who's been a bit of a thorn in the Pakistan side recently. Kohli, again, he's been out of form, but starting to look the Kohli of old. Played one of the all-time great T20 knocks, and I think the emotions of that would have taken a lot out of Pakistan, and I felt like the first few overs against Zimbabwe, they looked a bit flat.
Yeah.
I think Shaheen Shah Afridi right now is looking a little unfit. We saw him not really hitting that 140k pace that he usually gets to early on in his spell. Later on, he started looking a little better. There was a couple of deliveries he bowled to Sikandar Raza
Yeah.
that really got a bit of bounce and pace, but he doesn't look quite fit at the moment. So yeah, I was really surprised, to be honest, that they lost to Zimbabwe. And at one stage, I thought they had the game all wrapped up with Shan Masood and Shadab Khan, and I think it
Definitely.
just shows the pressure of these games. And poor old Navaz. I mean, this is two games in a row where he's been put in the last over trying to win a game for Pakistan, and unfortunately they couldn't get across the line. It's got to be hard. I think the last game against India took a lot out of Pakistan. I think.
I mean, there's no justification to not being able to chase 130 against Zimbabwe. You required 43 of 39 balls. You had 7 wickets in hand. Shan Masood and Shadab Khan were both set at the crease. Do you think the loss against India had a lot to do with the morale that Pakistan carried forward in the game against Zimbabwe? They looked dejected. They were heartbroken after that defeat. You saw the visuals after the match in the dressing room as well.
I think so, and we've got to think about the emotions that are involved between India and Pakistan matches. That there's something else that they're on a level that no other cricket countries in the world can relate to. This is
And you're saying it as a New Zealand fan. You play against Australia as well.
this is far bigger than New Zealand and Australia. I mean, this is the biggest rivalry in all cricket. If we look at the last World Cup in Dubai last year, or UAE, and we look at what India were like when they played New Zealand, and after they played Pakistan, and the emotions of that game, and they got beaten, and they struggled in that game a little bit. They lost early wickets against New Zealand, and they couldn't quite get into the game either. And at no stage against New Zealand were they really in the game. So I think these big emotional games really do take its toll. Also, the travel to Perth. I mean, you've got to get on a flight which is around 4 or so hours, which takes a lot out of players. The bouncy of pitches in Perth as well. I wouldn't have thought the Pakistani batsmen would have really been used to pitches that bounce that much. They're the highest bouncing pitches in the world. You go from obviously Melbourne where it was bouncing a lot, and there was a pace and bounce, but the pitch in Perth is something else. And I think all of that, plus the conditions, the travel, the scrutiny around the game, it must take its toll. So I think there was a little bit of that in this game. And I think as well as panic probably set in as well. They had the winnable game against India, and to go through that again, I think it really probably put a lot of pressure on the batsmen coming in after Shadab got out.
Now, where do Pakistan go from here? They have a very important match against Netherlands tomorrow, but there are 2 other matches which Pakistan would be keeping an eye on, because Pakistan now need Bangladesh to defeat Zimbabwe and obviously India to defeat South Africa as well. Do you see those 2 results going in Pakistan's favor, and do you really see Pakistan winning the next 3 matches?
I absolutely see Pakistan winning the next 3 matches. I think the game against Netherlands is a good stepping stone. I think it's a game that the Pakistani players can get some confidence under their belt. Obviously, you can't take cricket teams lightly, and we've seen in this tournament, some of the shock results that have happened. But I think Pakistan really need to just focus on winning the games that they can. I think start with Netherlands, and then the Indian game against South Africa obviously is going to be huge. I think India can definitely upset South Africa. I mean, we've seen India defeat South Africa in India recently. Yadav had a great series against South Africa. South Africa is going to be a really tough team because they've got some guys in great form. I mean, you look at that middle order of Markram, Miller, and Rousseau, who's played in the PSL for a few seasons, who's just been great over the last couple of years in T20 cricket. And since he's come back in the South African sides, 200s and a couple of 90s, and to cock up the top of the order. And we know their pace bowling attack. So, I think it's going to be a massive test for India. But I think this Indian side looks like they're on a roll. And the other thing about the Indian batsmen is that they do, such as Kohler, they do like playing in Australia. So I actually tip that Rohit Sharma will have a big game. And I've got a feeling that the pressure will go on South Africa. And I think that India will win that game and keep Pakistan's hopes alive. And then it comes down to Pakistan versus South Africa to see kind of who goes through to the next round. But yeah, I absolutely think that Pakistan just need to focus on themselves. No rash changes. I think changing your batting lineup right now probably isn't the best. I've heard some discussion around whether Rizwan and Baba change. I think it's too late to do that. I think you've got to keep what's been successful and focus on your game. And positive signs with Mohammad Wasim Jr. the other night. He bowled some great deliveries over 140 Ks. I think you keep your side. I think you take some confidence out of Netherlands. You don't really think about what's happening with South Africa, and then you see what happens tomorrow night, and then from there you just try to win every game you can.
Now I know New Zealand are sitting pretty, but there are a couple of teams in your group who have the calculators out as well. I'm talking about Australia and England. They are doing their calculations. You know, it's a messed up schedule right now at the moment, and the table is messed up as well.
Absolutely, it's going to be interesting to see what happens from this stage onwards. New Zealand's got a tricky match tonight against Sri Lanka. I mean, they've recovered well to get 160, I think 166, I think in the end. But Sri Lanka still have to bat, and there's not a lot of demons in that pitch. Maybe a little bit of turn. So I tip that Sri Lanka would give New Zealand a really strong game, and I actually think that Sri Lanka could give New Zealand a few difficulties. And if New Zealand were to lose this game tonight, then it really opens up the tournament for Australia and England. If New Zealand win tonight, it really puts New Zealand in a really strong position. And assuming New Zealand wins the rest of its games, which we know you can't say you're going to win every game, you've got to respect your opposition. And New Zealand's still got to play Ireland and Afghanistan. I'm trying to think who the next team is in the pool right now. But you'd think that we would win against Ireland. We still have to play England, which is a bit of a 50-50 match based on form. Although I think England probably historically would be favourites. I think it really comes down to that game. I think if England beats New Zealand, they're pretty much assured to go through because their net run rate is higher than Australia's at the moment. But there is that possibility as well that you have all three teams on 7 points, and then if it comes down to net run rate, I think New Zealand right now is in a really strong position. And because of Australia's poor performance against New Zealand in the first match, their net run rate is in such a position that it's going to be very difficult for them now to kind of overtake England and New Zealand if it goes down a net run rate. So I think New Zealand's in a strong position. I think New Zealand and England would be the two favourites as we speak. But as I said, if Sri Lanka can cause an upset and beat New Zealand tonight, then I think it becomes a crunch game between New Zealand and England in a few days' time.
Thank you very much, Adam, for your time. Best of luck for the rest of the matches. I do hope Pakistan and New Zealand meet at some stage of this tournament. Thank you once again.
Thanks very much. Much appreciated.
So this is all from this episode of Unpopular Opinions. This is Farid Khan signing off until the next episode.